Good afternoon, Martree. It's Matt Wright, Superintendent of Martree School District, bringing you this week's Monday update. I hope everyone had a great 4th of July weekend. I was able to take a couple of days off and slow down and catch my breath, and it was nice, and I hope that you had the opportunity to do the same. And if you didn't, I at least hope you got to see some great fireworks. Let's get right to this week's updates. Over the past couple of weeks, we have started receiving some questions about our elementary supply list. In the past, our elementary teachers produce a list of supplies that students are to bring on the first day of school or to open house. Well, we're going to do it a little different this year. Rather than have our parents go out and purchase things for school, we are going to purchase all of the supplies that are needed for school, for our elementary students this year. There will be no reason for you to be concerned about bringing your elementary student to school with supplies. And we're going to do that for a couple of reasons. First, we're trying to minimize the amount of items that are transitioned in and out of our building each day. And so we want to be able to get those supplies here and keep them here. Second, it's just what feels right in this moment. It feels like the right thing to do for our community. We've received some funding to help the school get through the COVID-19 pandemic. And we think that this is certainly something that we can do to help our families get through this pandemic. You know, some of you have unfortunately had your hours cut, or maybe you even lost a job. And starting school can, it can be a financial burden on all of us. And so we want to do whatever we can to make this easier for our community. And so in return, we are going to ask for a couple of things. Number one, we are working to create a list of items that you might need at home if we have a temporary closure. Now, just for the sake of transparency, I fully anticipate at some point this year we are going to have a closure, whether that be for snow or whether that be for COVID-19. You know, we don't have AMI days this year. What we have to be able to do as a district is to continue the teaching and the learning. We have to be able to transition from that face-to-face learning environment to that blended approach in a moment's notice. And what I would tell you is that I foresee a COVID closure looking the same as a school closure. When we leave school, sometimes we know snow's in the forecast, and it may show up and it may not, but ultimately we are all prepared for it. We've got to take the same approach with COVID day in and day out this year. We can't predict if, when, or how long, but what we can do is be prepared to have our home learning environment simply act as an extension of our classrooms. And we want you to focus your energies on that versus having to set up that home learning environment and prepare for school. We want to help ease that burden for you. So we are putting together a list of items that you might need at home for that classroom, for your home to act as that extension of the classroom. And once we get that list completed, we'll make sure that we get that to you. Also, we're going to ask every student in grades K through 12 have a backpack. As we have to transition from the traditional learning environment to that blended learning environment, that computer or a computer is going to act as a key piece. And so we want our students to have something that they can transport their Chromebooks home in safely. So as we get that list, that universal list done for our K-6 students, we'll make sure that we get that out. I know some of our high school parents, you're worried, you might be thinking, well, why aren't you doing anything for high school kids? Our high school kids need very few things. They need paper, pencil, and folders. Ultimately, that's all that they need for school. And those are items, if a kid brings paper and a folder and they start their notes in something, we can't tell them to leave that at school. We want them to be able to take that home. And so the cost of the supplies aren't as extensive on high school parents as it is for elementary parents, as it pertains to those essential school items. And so that's why we're helping those parents right now. And so I hope you certainly understand why we're doing that. Next up, Our district, our state, even our Department of Education, we're all looking for ways to help our families find affordable internet. I am so thankful. I think our community is so lucky to have Ritter Communications housed in our community. They've been a big help to us throughout the beginning or the initial stages of this pandemic, but also they've supplied our community with reliable internet since the mid to late 90s. There are areas that were much larger than Martree that didn't have internet service, and we did. That has always been a valuable service for our community. Now, Ritter Communications has a discounted internet program for students that are in a K through 12 school. There's no installation fee, there's no contact fee. They will provide you with the wireless, and we will provide you with the device. Now, there are some restrictions. For example, there's a data allowance. If a student is using this for schoolwork, you will not have a problem with the data allowance. The data allowance is 750 gigabytes. I have a program, or I'm on a similar plan at home through Ritter. We stream our TV service. We have a computer. We have a couple of devices that run off of this same plan. We don't come close to 750 gigabytes. This program is $36.95 a month. It's around half of the normal price. And this will certainly serve as a can certainly serve as a great resource for some of you, especially those of you who are going to participate in the online learning environment or the online learning option. You're going to have reliable internet, and so this might be something that you want to look into. We will post the application for this program on our webpage and our Facebook page in the next couple of days. What you'll do is you'll print that off, send it to us. Once we verify that you're enrolled in our school, we'll turn that over to Ritter Communications, and they will schedule a service call. They'll come out and install whatever you need to have that wireless internet in your home, and then we can get you the device. And so keep your eyes peeled for that. This week, we are going to post our link to register for our online learning program. Now, this is the K-12 program that we've been discussing. It's a good option for those of you who are concerned about student safety. We totally understand that. Some of you are apprehensive about sending your kids back to school, and this is the choice that's being tailor-made just for you. Now, last week, we did discuss that there's going to be requirements, and we shared with you that there would be a firm deadline. That firm deadline is July the 24th. Whatever you pick on July the 24th, if on July the 24th you tell us, I want to participate in the online learning option, then we are going to require that you stick with that for the first 9 weeks of school. As we have stated, excuse me, as we've stated, safety at school is going to start with a structured and efficient schedule. Once we know who's choosing our online learning option, only then can we start building the schedule for the students who are face-to-face. And so that's why we have to have that commitment by July the 24th, so that we have time to shore up our master schedule for all the other students in grades K through 12. We will provide you with opt-out dates, or dates by which you can inform the school that you no longer want to participate in the online learning option. You'll have plenty of time to do that in advance of the end of the first quarter, and that will give us time to plug your student into our master schedule. Please remember, if your student chooses this option, you can participate in extracurricular activities. The second requirement, you're going to have reliable internet. We just discussed that. We can provide the device, you have to provide the internet. Third, your student must have academic success when participating in online learning. If a student begins to academically struggle, if they're not logging in and participating, if they're not getting their work turned in a timely manner, then we're going to require them to come back to school. We're going to post more information about that. I'm sure there are tons of questions, but just keep your eyes peeled for that, and we'll get that information out to you along with the link to register. Finally, let's talk about graduation. Last week, we received notification from the ADE that our graduation plan had been approved. So Graduation is going to be held July the 23rd at 6 p.m. sharp at Don Lovell Memorial Field. It's going to be a very efficient ceremony. It's going to be hot. There's going to be mosquitoes. We want to keep everybody safe, so we're going to have a very efficient program, one that flows very quickly. Our target from start to finish is 30 minutes. Now, don't think that we are de-emphasizing the importance of graduation. That's the last thing that we're doing. We're going to graduate about 30 students. Typically, our graduations don't take that long anyways. So I don't think staying around 30 minutes is going to be much of a challenge, but it's something that we have to do in the name of safety. As we have this ceremony and as we start to talk about some of the things that we're going to have to do, I ask you to consider this ceremony is for our kids, but it is also the responsibility of all of us who are participating in this ceremony to keep those kids safe, to keep those people in the bleachers safe, and to keep the members of our entire community safe. And so all the requirements that we have, the fact that we're going to try to keep it to a 30-minute ceremony, maybe a little bit longer, it's all about safety. And we have to keep that in mind. Now we'll go into depth more on that next week, but I do want to start sharing some important details with you. Number one, we will be practicing social distancing and we will be requiring masks. Now, I say that we are requiring. That was a condition of the state or the Department of Education and the Department of Health for even being considered to have a graduation ceremony. So please understand that. This will also be a very structured event. There's going to be a certain time for everything. There will be a certain time for graduates to arrive. There will be a certain time for faculty members to arrive. There will be a certain time for family members to arrive. There will be certain times you can begin parking, getting in line. There'll be a certain way to get in line, and several other things. For example, at the end of the event, you will have to be dismissed. We cannot let kids leave until people are in their cars and leaving. We have to dismiss in an orderly fashion. We have to restrict people from congregating, celebrating, taking pictures, at least while on school grounds. And I know some of you are thinking, well, if you're going to have to do all those things, why are you even having a graduation? Well, we're having a graduation to honor those kids, and I promise you, that is important to those students. We aren't allowed to have restroom facilities available, and once you get to your seat, you're going to be required to stay in that seat or in that area. By the end of next week, we hope to have by the end of this week, we hope to have a letter mailed to all the seniors to share the information with them, and then we're going to share it here. And I urge you to remember not to get caught up in what is or what isn't happening, but focusing on the fact that we are getting to have a graduation ceremony. 2 months ago, 3 months ago, we didn't know if we were going to be able to or not. But the fact that we are 3 weeks and 2 days away from our kids walking across the stage and graduating is I'm so grateful. I'm grateful that the state is doing that and allowing us to have it. And in return, I want to honor the commitment that we made to them. I don't know how many schools have been given permission to have a graduation ceremony. Having said that, it could be that a lot of people watch us to see what we're doing and how we're acting, how we're handling things. And so I would ask you, let's serve as a model for the communities around us on how to be safe and how to keep our kids safe and how to keep our community safe. Well, we are approaching 15 minutes. Hope that you had a great week. I hope that you find this information useful. We will be getting those links out in the next days for graduation. For your students' registration to online learning. And we will be getting a letter out to seniors about graduation. So look for that in the mail. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next week.